Welcome to the Dad Bod, a podcast that tells the story of what it means to be a dad today, one dad at a time. My name is Sean, and I'm a dad living in New York City with my wife and our two young native New Yorkers. The formula for the Dad Bod is simple. Each episode, we're going to interview one dad to get his story of being a dad. Over time, all of these stories will start to create the bigger story of what it means to be a dad today. If you like what we're doing with the Dad Bod, hit that subscribe button and post a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app. Maybe even leave a shout out to one of the Dad Bod dads to let him know that you appreciate his personal story. I'm incredibly thankful for the Dad Bod dads. Each of their stories has had a hugely positive impact on me as a dad and as a man. The purpose of the reflection episodes is to share some positive takeaways with all of you, while also crystallizing the wisdom and perspective from each of these dad stories for myself. This reflection episode is dedicated to Carlton, Daddy's boy dad. After listening to this episode, I encourage you to go back and listen to the full interview so that you can get a firsthand feel for who Carlton is and his story. So we New Yorkers have some unique social habits and instincts, including the ability to mind our own business while still staying attuned to everything happening around us. This means that the vast majority of the time, we just keep it moving and let others do the same. That's where Carlton and I began, crossing paths every now and then while he delivered mail in our building. But that changed one day when we passed by each other while my son was with me. As kids often do, my son's presence broke the ice. "How's it going, champ?" Carlton asked. "Getting some quality time with Dad?" Carlton and I exchanged pleasantries and introduced ourselves. "It's great to see dads spending time with their sons," he said as we parted ways. We were now officially acquainted, and as we had more random conversations and got to know each other, I picked up on Carlton's passion for mentorship and family, as well as his great warmth and energy. So I texted him one day, asking him if he'd be a guest on the Dad Bod, and I'm so thankful that he accepted. In my interview with Carlton, I felt like I was sitting in front of a man who was living a changed life. Now, Carlton will be the first to tell you that he's a work in progress like all of us, but very few of us regular everyday dads speak with his level of conviction and clarity about concepts as well as peace with regards to his own journey as a son, man, husband, mentee, mentor, and of course, dad. His interview is full of wisdom that I have been quoting silently to myself and even out loud to my family repeatedly. I highly recommend listening to the interview, but for this reflection, I want to highlight some of my favorites. I'm tempted to rank these quotes for the built-in drama of which one is number one, but I think it's much more meaningful to organize them under headings based on the key titles that many of us are privileged to bear: son, husband, man, and dad. We're going to get the music going for this one and pipe in those quotes directly from Carlton, Daddy's boy dad himself. Starting with the theme of son.
I love that man. I love that man. Because he gave so much to me, he didn't realize it. He allowed me to be a son. See, when you don't have your daddy in your life, you have to know how to be the man in the house. I didn't have to be the man in the house. I got to be the son.
I love this quote. With its simplicity, it powerfully conveys Carlton's deep appreciation for his sonship with respect to his own dad, which makes me pause and appreciate how blessed I am to be my dad's son. It reminds me that I want my son to be able to say one day, "I got to be the son," which is a reminder to me to show up and step up every day as his and as his sister's dad. One of the ways that I struggle with this is in trying to help my kids get ready to handle more things on their own as they get older. I can sometimes be in a rush to see them find their independence. In my mind, I ask questions like, why can't he do that yet? Is she ever going to learn? Those questions can be fine, but the problem is when they are actually the innocent-looking projections of a deeper question. Why aren't you doing a better job as a dad? It's my mean inner voice talking. I'm very well acquainted with this voice, so I know for sure that it's not the voice that I want to be parenting from. If my kids are going to be able to say, "I got to be the son," or "I got to be the daughter," I need to focus on being the dad and leaving that old voice behind. Another son quote.
We always see the carpet, Sean, but if you take up the carpet, you don't see the concrete that holds you up. So you have to have that. That mother is the foundation. That's the love, that's emotion. And once that's gone out the family, it's like, who's going to take up that spot?
This went over my head when Carlton first said it, but after hearing him reference this metaphor again in a later conversation we had, I understood that what he's talking about here is the importance of mothers, specifically but not limited to being the emotional bedrock of a family. You may think you're standing on the carpet, but the thing that's really supporting you is the floor. And collectively, as a parenting unit, both dad and mom have important contributions to make to the family's foundation. This has helped me appreciate the things that my wife does that my children and I all probably take for granted. It also challenged me to recognize the important, invisible contributions I should be making to the family's foundation. Shifting to quotes on being a husband.
4 things that a woman like to see in a man and 4 things that men struggle with. And it's maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength. So that was powerful for me to hear that type of teaching and say, that's 4 things that I'm failing at.
There are many virtues, but this list of 4 resonates with me as a dad and a husband. And as Carlton goes on to say, these are the things that he struggled with, particularly when he was younger, before becoming a husband and a dad, and they were a big reason why he sought to join a men's group at his church. In our interview, he said, "I wanted to be with more men and hear their stories so that I could get stronger and not give up." Carlton realized that being surrounded by other men who are all trying to be better would make him better. It's so obvious, but how many of us do the opposite by trying to tackle everything on our own? We need each other. Moving to another husband quote.
And I realized just doing mentoring that listen and silent is the same letters in different order, but requires the same energy.
I've replayed these words from Carlton countless times. They've helped me be slower to speak and deeper with my listening. At least I hope so. They've inspired me by associating listening and silence, seemingly passive things, with energy. Maybe you're in a meeting and you have an important point to make, so you're only half listening and essentially just waiting for an opening to say your piece. Maybe a conversation you're having with your spouse is starting to escalate. She's talking, saying something that you need to hear, but the only thing you're hearing are recycled words from past arguments. Those are the times when it's clear it takes energy to listen, and to listen, you need to be silent. Let's keep the husband quotes coming.
And for we as men, we're taught to be Superman, but never to identify as Ken. And if we can identify as Ken or let our ladies know about Ken, then they can respect Superman so much more.
This, to me, calls out the challenge and importance of being vulnerable. As men, we know we need to be strong, but with this quote, Carlton is telling us that to be strong as a husband also includes being vulnerable and open. I can personally attest to how hard that is, but when I do, my relationship with my wife is made better, which can only be better for my kids as well. One more husband quote from Carlton. This one might be my favorite.
You put your wife on the calendar, right? You take her out, and when she see her name on the calendar, you say, hey, anything that's important to me is on the calendar, so you're important to me.
This quote is like smelling salts. The day-to-day grind of marriage and parenting often feels like a never-ending, one thing after another repeating cycle. For those of us who are married, our life partner is in the trenches with us, but can also feel so far away. Carlton's words are a call to counter this monotony with intentionality in the most important relationship in your life. Moving on to quotes on being a man.
We need to know that we can't just act out in emotions. Why are you acting that way? Because I learned now that decision is not made in the moment, it's made in your character. And we do things according to patterns. So we come here, it's like, why do you do that? Is it making the house better?
Amongst all these quotes I've taken from Carlton's interview, this is the one I quote to myself the most. It challenges the simplistic understanding of decisions being about logic, knowledge, and intelligence. Certainly, those are factors of decision making, but the real foundation and soul of a person's decision making is in their character. This becomes especially apparent in moments of moral consequence. Sometimes those moments are slow and heart-wrenching. You have time to think about the choices before you. A close friend has hurt you, and it's on your heart to confront them. Someone at work is taking the blame for something that went wrong, but you see the ways that you contributed to the situation. In these moments, it may be a myriad of unclear choices, or perhaps the right choice is obvious. Either way, actually moving forward with your decision is difficult and keeps you up at night. Other times, these moments of moral consequence are quick and heart-revealing. They come unexpectedly and pass so quickly that you don't even realize it happened until after it's over. I had one such moment on Father's Day of all days. My family and I were on the bus, heading to dinner in my honor for Father's Day. It was a busy Sunday afternoon, and our M7 bus was crowded. We got to our stop, and I led my family swiftly to the rear exit to make sure we could exit before people started onboarding. That's how it is in New York. There are rules and guidelines, but it's up to you to enforce them using the hidden language of social cues that let other people know this is your city and you know how it works too. It's assertiveness to prevent rudeness. People are supposed to wait until everyone has exited before starting to enter, be it the elevator, the subway, or in this case, the bus. But if you're half a second late and they start boarding, now you're swimming against the tide of the crowd. So I'm right on time. The door opens, and I'm stepping off with my kids right behind, and this guy is starting to get on anyways. So I let him know, hold on, we're getting off. Well, he takes exception to this. And then I take exception to him taking exception. And now we're into it. Nothing physical, all just verbal. No name calling either. But it got hot, and it was in front of my kids. And in front of his grandkids, too, who were with him. Not my best moment. I was amped, my mind cycling arguments for why I was right and he was wrong, my heart pumping blood in my chest and my arms, as if I was actually about to engage in physical combat. And my face, struggling to appear normal in front of my family like nothing happened, and we're just walking to dinner on a beautiful sunny Sunday. That's the kind of moment where the decisions are made in your character. You have no time to think, how should I respond to this guy who's being rude? Let me think about it for a few minutes. No, that's not happening. Your character makes the decision, and in this case, I apologize to my family for mine. We try to teach our kids a lot of things, but the main point has to be character. We teach them to swim, not just so they can have fun and stay safe around water, but so they can learn through experience what bravery, perseverance, growth, and success feel like. But in our role as dads specifically, we need to be mindful that they also learn character through what they see and feel from us. We're grown men, but we're not done working on our character too. Another quote about being a man.
But when you watch the news and you see the eye of the storm, that's a resting place for us. And it's not until you get into a situation that you can make adjustment. Or it's not until halftime the coach come in and say, hey, we down, but if we make these adjustments, we can win the game in the second half.
I love the perspective on this. When something's not going right, two very natural reactions are to pull the covers over your head or act out emotionally. In both cases, we are shutting down our minds and giving up. Carlton's perspective in this quote is to do the opposite. When you feel like the storm is closing in from all sides, rather than shut down, recognize that it's halftime and you get to make an adjustment. For me, this advice has transformed hectic, chaotic situations into moments of empowerment rather than frustration. Here's another great quote about being a man.
I needed to change my group. If you're the smartest one in your group, you need to change your group.
Carlton said this when he was describing a time when he was trying to find his footing in life and he realized that he needed a different crowd. I thought it was really funny when he said it, but there's some deep truth to it as well. We are shaped by the company we keep. In Carlton's case, his life changed dramatically when he joined his church, not because he started attending church on Sundays, but because he made a deep commitment to a community that also made a deep commitment to him. The specific community that Carlton speaks of is called ICB Men, a men's group within his church. He started there first as a disciple, one of the guys who was there to learn from other men and, as Carlton puts it, to get a different perspective on life. Today, he's a leader of the Brooklyn chapter, a role which has Carlton giving back to this community by serving other guys in their own personal journeys as men. Moving on now to quotes about being a dad.
I learned from here, system is saving yourself some time, energy, and money. You have to learn the system and everything.
I love this catchy acronym and its message. Now, I happen to design technical and operational systems at work, but the concept also translates to everyday life as a dad or as a mom. The message here is really practical. The more we can invest in systems for getting things done, the more time, energy, and money we'll have to give to our families. A system may have technical components to it, but it's not about the technology. It's about defining thoughtful ways to do things effectively and efficiently. Last but not least, one more quote about being a dad to close it out and take us home.
Once the house is better, then the block is better, then the city's better, then the state is better, and then the world is better. But it goes back to the house and where is dad?
I couldn't have said it better myself, Carlton. This is the essence of the Dad Bod, telling the story of what it means to be a dad today, because where we are as dads matters, and it emanates out from our homes, to our neighborhoods, to our cities, and to the world. And with that, I want to thank Carlton, Daddy's Boy Dad, once again for sharing his story. If you haven't already, check it out in your favorite podcast app and give Carlton a shout out along with a 5-star review of the Dad Bod, or email me anytime at sean@thedadbodpod.com. I hope the Dad Bod brings a little something positive to your day. Thanks again for listening.